Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are here with Austin from Ohio, and today is Sunday, March 14th, 2021. I believe. Yes. Today, I said that I would make a video, and of course, I was working on it all day, and I had some stuff to do, of course, because, regular life stuff that we all have to go through at one point or another, and I wanted to do this earlier, but didn't end up working out that way, so I had to get to it at this point in time. I wanted to do it around 6, because I really want to start doing these around like 6 o'clock, because that seems about like a good time, and it can be up by like 8. No harm, no foul, and people won't be just going to bed by the time they get uploaded. But that is my fault for wanting to record later in the day. It is currently 7:33 p.m. in the beautiful Ohio Valley, and today there wasn't many planes spraying like they were yesterday when I recorded those videos. It looked like it might have been further south. So, I mean, I know there's people on here that listen from my area, and I think his name's Mark Lloyd. He's from Washington, PA, which is actually about 35 minutes from me if I were to leave my house and start driving right now. Mark, if you're out there, you can just come on and tell me if they were spraying down by you today, because up here in my neck of the valley, they were not. And it looked like the majority of it was down south. And I think that's just what they do. They focus on different areas to cover more so than other days, and then they'll start at the beginning of the week and they'll broadly cover all areas, but sometimes they focus on different areas at once depending on the levels of what they put in the air. They have all the recordings, they have all of it worked out. But I didn't bring it up, but down in Denver, they are seeing record blizzard, is what they're calling it, after it was 70 degrees, mid-70s all week. So, to me, I would consider that very suspicious circumstances when it comes to the weather out there. So tonight, we're going to read a couple news articles, and we're going to go over some things that are going on right now. And we have to keep up with this stuff, because if we don't, and we fall behind, that is when we get ourselves into trouble. So today I wanted to start with this one here. And this is by Fox News. Democrats push assault weapon ban in new gun control bill. Democrats want to ban magazines and other ammunition feeding devices able to hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition. We read that in H.R. 127 and a few others, but I'm not sure that H.R. 127 is the one that they're ramming through. I don't believe. And also, it's not just Democrats. If I was reading it on CNN, they would say, oh, lawmakers want to, and during Trump's presidency, CNN would say, oh, Republicans want to do, no, none of that is real. The government and the powers that should not be are the ones who want to ban magazines and other ammunition feeding devices able to hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition. But we know the true objective, which is disarmament of the American people, who are the last people in the world who can help our collective situation. And guess who is spearheading this bill? None other than Senator Dianne Feinstein herself and Representative David Cicilline. Each introduced an assault weapons ban in their chamber on Thursday, amid a rise in domestic terrorism, in Feinstein's words. Okay, we already talked about that. We told you that they were going to use the Capitol event and what happened on January 6th to gain momentum, so they can, and that's the window of opportunity that the president was talking about, and also other aides to the president, lawmakers, and media moguls. They're like, oh, with the domestic terrorism, we now have to take guns away because these people are Nazis and crazy, and we all will be fit into that category. It's not just the guy you saw on TV that ran up into the Capitol and all this. No, it's not. It's not just them. It's anybody they want to put in this. We also know about the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act of 2021 that is currently being worked on. But it's been 17 years since the original assault weapons ban expired, Feinstein said in a statement. Quote, when it was in place from 1994 to 2004, gun massacres declined by 37%, compared with the decade before. After the ban expired, the number of massacres rose by 183%. We're now seeing a rise in domestic terrorism, and military-style assault weapons are increasingly becoming the guns of choice for these dangerous groups. Okay, hold on. You see how they're trying to do this? They're saying, oh, we can't let these dangerous militia groups have all these guns because then they're gonna harm us and we need to be safe. And the people are going to say, I want to give up my gun, if they have any. We've seen the videos of people cutting their rifles in half on YouTube. There's countless. You can go and you can look them up. Because they want to make a difference. You know what my rifle's doing right now? Collecting dust in the closet. A gun is just a tool, as a fork is just a tool, as a wrench is just a tool, as a baseball bat is just a tool. It comes from the people behind it. We've been over this before, but we can go through it again. Most people you know in your life probably have guns. If you live in this country, the United States. People that you don't even know might have guns, And guess what? We don't see people out here in our everyday lives shooting each other, killing each other. It's not crazy like they try to broadcast it to other countries of what life is like here. Because if you go look at their propaganda for other countries, and on their news, they show us as a bunch of barbaric fools, is what they say. And that goes with the perception that they're trying to create around the world for the United States, is that we're terrible, we need to be destroyed, because we're holding back progressivism and collectivism and communitarianism, and we're barbaric in our thinking and this and that. But let's continue. How Biden could tighten gun control without Congress? There's a question to ask. How do we bypass our system of government? The bill would ban the sale, manufacture, transfer, and importation of more than 200 military-style assault weapons identified by name, although owners would be allowed to keep existing weapons. The bill would also require background checks on any future purchases, trades, or gifting of an assault weapon included in the bill. Feinstein and Sicilian referred to the Dayton, Ohio shooting. That's my neck of the woods. That left 9 people dead in 2019. The shooter had a 100-round magazine. Assault weapons are designed for a single purpose: to kill as many people as possible in as short amount of time as possible. That's not true. Assault weapons, what they're talking about, are not designed for a single purpose. They're designed to be an effective tool to use in defense of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or property, or other human life. Nobody goes and buys a gun and says, oh, I'm going to kill as many people as possible in the shortest amount of time. And if they do, and they went somewhere, and they said, this looks like a good spot, and other people were not unarmed, that person would have a very hard time achieving what he or she would want to achieve that night. Because the first couple shots that he or she got off, they'd be dead. That's why they are the weapon of choice for mass shooters and domestic terrorists. There we go again. They are weapons of war and do not belong in our communities. What war has an AR-15 ever been used in? Zero. The proposed ban would ban magazines and other ammunition-feeding devices able to hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition, but owners would be allowed to keep existing magazines. Oh, but the other one, you have to register it. And I think I have it pulled up where it talks about that. Moving on. Okay, now we are over here at the Daily News. And this article was yesterday, 5:30 p.m. The slope is not so slippery, actually. Dems must tackle disinformation about gun control head on. Oh, what's the disinformation? That they're not trying to disarm the American people? Because, well, as we went over before here, that's exactly what they're trying to do. President Biden's gun plan includes mandatory registration of assault weapons for anyone wishing to keep those they already own. So from the last article, they left that out conveniently. You would have to register what you already have. And I'm here to say that I will not register anything that I have at all. Because what I own is nobody's business, whether it be a gun, a cow, some kind of weird car, I don't know. What you do is your business, and it's not up to anybody or any government entity, which is made up of men, to know that you have. And we know what comes after national registration. Let's ask our friends in Germany and in Europe. There are people that post on social media and say, we should have never given up our weapons. He is the first president to raise the issue of gun registration in more than 50 years. Since President Lyndon Baines Johnson, he's the first ever to propose banning new sales of assault or tactical semi-automatic weapons. There's a new one, tactical. Wonder how they would define that. The Biden administration is responding to pressure for gun reform led today by survivors of the Valentine's Day 2018 shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. The plan is finally put on the table what gun reform advocates, including surviving parents and others, have long demanded, seemingly in vain until now. The House just passed major gun control bills on Thursday. Yes. And how weird that I get an ad for the exact razor that I use. No, that is not a promotion. I always mess with that thing on accident. Here, we'll move you right up here. Okay, there you go. Gun rights advocates, however, a group that seems to include nearly every leader of the Republican Party, are, well, yeah, because they have to play the same one side, this side. Oh, look, people that identify with the left side, they're trying to get gun rights advocates that include every leader of the Republican Party. These Republicans, they just want to, they tell the Republicans, oh, these Democrats are just trying to take your guns and you got to get mad. And they tell the other side, you have to get mad. Now you got to take it out on each other. Hey, don't worry about what we're doing. We're not trying to do anything. We're your friends and we love you very much. Now go eat your cereal and go to your room. Typical. There's one issue that could reunite the GOP, from Senator Mitch McConnell to former President Trump, not to mention every group from 3%ers to neo-Nazis who joined in the January 6th Capitol takeover. It is gun registration against it, that is. And they do things like this. So they made Trump their fall guy, we know that. Called that before he even took office, and that's exactly what happened. They make Trump the fall guy. He takes the blame for all kind of stuff on purpose. We're seeing that. We've seen it. We'll continue to see it because it's a perfect way to group everybody in. And that's why they also created QAnon. And if you are still buying into that, you are helping them in their agenda to enslave the people of the world. They're focusing on us because we're the only ones that could actually have any real change, you could say. And it's really not that hard to see all this stuff for what it is. Give me a freshly lit cigarette, and now I feel like an old man reading the news. That's the kind of energy I try to go for on here, is like serious news reading, commentary type, you know, serious, because that's what it is. But they talk about the 3%ers, and they compare them to the neo-Nazis who joined the January 6th Capitol takeover. And this, the way it's worded, wants you to think that 3%ers and neo-Nazis joined the Capitol riot takeover on the 6th. Most 3%ers, they don't identify with Trump or any other weird thing like that. I mean, they are, well, infiltrated now, but this is just what they do. And anybody that, pretty soon, anyone that even has a gun or any kind of American memorabilia or anything like that, you're going to be considered a terrorist, domestic terrorist, that is, and you'll be considered a neo-Nazi in this because you love this country and you love the Constitution. That's all it's going to take. They're right now forming the public's mind and tricking us into wanting to give up our firearms under the sense of safety, security, all the old lies that they ever have done. And it's not them taking the guns that people are just worried about. It's what happens after that. That's why this is so important. Moving on. It is impossible to imagine how Biden could succeed in healing the nation, as he has promised, and still enact all of his gun plan. Many, if not most, of the 74 million people who voted for Trump's re-election would also oppose this plan. Not to mention many elected officials, from governors to constitutional sheriffs, who might refuse to comply, or the new Roberts Supreme Court, which will one day no doubt rule on gun laws. They've taken all this into consideration. Anybody besides that, think about that. 74 million people were Trump supporters. Maybe more, give or take, who knows. How many people are in the United States in total? So you got 74 million people voted for Trump. Let's say, for the sake of this conversation, their numbers that they give us are correct. 74 million people vote for Trump. 80 million people vote for Biden. Not saying that those figures are real or not. I'm just saying the figures that they put out. That's like what? 1,500 people? Or not 1,500. Why did I say 1,500? 150 million people. Because I was doing, just forget it. 150 million people. That's about half the country, give or take. Okay, so these are the people that are only taking the two-party system, minus children and people that aren't of voting age. You would still have about at least 50, 60 million people who didn't partake in any of that at all. But if they're going to go around labeling you, if you have a gun, as a Trump supporter or domestic terrorist, this and that, you could also include all of those people into this. And that's exactly what this did. That's what Trump's presidency did. It allowed them to group all of us, people within the truth community, actual, real patriots, people that actually know what is going on, not some watered down Q version or Alex Jones crap. No. Millions of people today see gun control itself as an existential threat. You should. You definitely should. They call it the slippery slope. And all of a sudden everything gets taken away as, and they go on here, as President Trump said in 2018, when he reversed himself on background checks after back-to-back weekend shootings, whatever. When he spoke to the NRA leader, Wayne LaPierre, the NRA is also a Trojan horse. the NRA has compromised, what they call it, I'm doing the air quotes, compromised on every single infringement that has ever been. Because they're there to help soften the blow and make you think it's all right that they're only taking this little bit at a time. Until the last little bit that they take leaves you with a steel rod, which was formerly your barrel. But they're talking about getting the assault weapons banned. The other one, we still got the HR 127, still got 5717. One of these is called HR 8. So they're coming at us with a whole bunch, hoping that one of them sticks. People need to become educated about how important it is for regular people like us, people down here on the ground that are living this life, how important it is for us to own firearms. It's not an outdated concept. The concept is very simple. There will always be evil people out there who are willing to exercise their will over good people. Always. It's always been like that ever since the beginning of humankind. And the only reason that a government would want to disarm its population is if it plans on enslaving them, which is exactly what they do plan on. If you couldn't already tell. Welcome to the New World Order. Moving on. Okay, in other news, we have this going on. Oh man, never mind. This is going on. It's from the Daily Beast today. Deadly third C-19 wave grips Europe, forcing mass lockdowns. Several other European countries are bracing for harsh restrictions to mitigate a deadly third C-19 wave that has been fueled by fast-spreading variants and a lack of V's. Half of Italy will be placed under a strict lockdown from Monday through the Easter holidays. Italy logged more than 27,000 new C-19 cases and nearly 400 deaths on Friday. Health authorities in France, Germany are also calling for national lockdowns as emergency rooms fill up and the death tolls rise. In contrast, the United Kingdom, where the V rollout has been largely successful, is set to loosen some restrictions. So, in Europe, they're getting ready to lock it down again. And the terrible part about that is they're going to do the same thing here. And I will show you that right now. Here we are at the New York Post, where Fauci says the U.S. could follow Italy's lockdown path if C-19 restrictions are lifted early. And this was today, 11:49 a.m. And what did we talk about like 3 videos ago? Like 4 or 5 days ago. That they got all these places opening up. People are getting excited, right before summertime. All these different states, certain key states, I believe, depending on the perception they want to push in the public's mind, are starting to loosen up their restrictions. Because then when they come back with this, so they can justify the harsher lockdown, the real one, the one that they've wanted since the beginning. Since they first laid out Event 201 in October of 2019, maybe even before that, that's what they actually wanted, and they're going to get it this way. Let's read. Dr. Fauci is urging America to be cautious with lifting C-19 restrictions. Doctor, we already said his name 100 times. I want to get taken down or whatever. Warned Sunday that the U.S. has to gradually lift C-19 restrictions in order to avoid the same consequences as Italy and enter a new lockdown. So they're already telling us, you're getting locked down again, because they're going to say, oh, it's going up here and there, everywhere. So now we already gave you a little bit of freedom, but now we have to take it away because you guys caused all this by going outside and being around people. The White House chief medical advisor said that there are about 50,000 to 65,000 new cases daily in the nation, a high number that comes with the risk of another surge. We know from previous surges that we've had over the year that when you see that leveling off at a high level, there's always the risk of a surge back up. And unfortunately, that's exactly what is happening in Europe right now, he told Fox News. They have the same kind of decline. They only seem to be a few weeks ahead of us in the dynamics of the outbreak. Then they plateaued because they pulled back a bit. So basically they're telling us that since we're all doing the same thing, it's going to happen here too. In a separate interview on CNN's State of the Union, he explained that Italy has been forced to order a new lockdown that starts Monday after prematurely lifting its own restrictions. They pulled back on public health measures. They opened the restaurants, opened some of the bars, he told CNN anchor Jake Tapper on State of the Union. Look at this. Police check people sitting in a crowded park in Italy. How do you like being ruled over? This is what tyranny looks like. People are just out having a good time, nice day, in the park, having a picnic, being with their loved ones, and look who's there. The state. Armed, ready to go, to make sure that you are doing exactly what you are told, and you will not get away with it. The younger people have particularly stopped wearing masks, and all of a sudden you have a surge that went right back up. Oh, isn't that convenient? Said the U.S. is on track to return to a considerable degree of normality this summer, but if it lifts restrictions too quickly, the risks turning the way of Italy, which has gone back into lockdown after a surge in cases. Okay, so already they're getting people that they're saying, oh, we're going to go back to some degree of normality if we're on the right track. Because what this is going to do, it's going to drive a wedge in between the people even more. Because you're going to have people yelling at other people, saying that they're responsible for the new lockdown, when in reality, none of us are responsible for it. Well, technically we all are because we're not doing anything, but they've had this planned out already. They're not going as they go. This is coordinated. And I'll keep saying it. I'm not going to quit saying it. It's coordinated. Yes, people are getting sick. No, it's not a pandemic. I'm sorry. It's just the truth. You don't believe me? Turn your TV off, walk outside, and go talk to people. You'll find out. Oh, and of course, we can avoid that if we continue to, give people the V, more and more protection with all of a sudden pulling back on public health measures. Gee, that's real nice. So yeah, it's, it's our fault because we're not going to get this. Oh, I was going to zoom in. Can't do it here for some reason. That was going to be a lot cooler. So if we don't get what they're telling us to get, and we don't do exactly what we're told, they're going to have to lock us down again for our own safety. Does anybody even think that this stuff is legit? Does anybody even think that this is feasible? Where's the sanity? I mean, I know there's people out there, like the comments that we were reading the other day on social media, who definitely will think this is a good idea, because they'll say, oh, we got to listen to the experts. You're not an expert. We want the experts because the experts know best. And I love the experts. Speaking of the the shot. This one here from NBC News. VPs, that's what we'll call them, will they be available in the U.S. in time for summer? Oh yeah. After getting both doses of the C-19V, I stored my appointment card in a safe. As lead instructor for NATO Special Forces training, I'll need to prove my V status before traveling to NATO headquarters in Belgium, when in-person learning resumes, most likely this summer. So they're still playing up this narrative like, oh, this summer everything could be good. We already know it's not going to be that way. But my vaccine card, oops, I said the word, issued by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, will actually not be enough to prove that I am fully V'd, especially for my international travel. The cards are too easy to forge. Yeah, the cards are easy to forge. We need digital, right? With more than 335 million doses of C-19 vaccine. Damn it. Keep saying it. Administered around the world so far, according to the World Health Organization, the race is on to develop a C-19VP. While planning for my NATO trip, I soon learned that an official form wasn't readily available in the U.S. yet, and may not be soon. And here's a picture of one of the cards. Papers, please. Show us your record of your C-19V. If not, get back in your house, under threat of arrest or death. VPs that could determine what people can and can't do come loaded with ethical considerations. Vs are still not easily available around the world, and people will be divided up into haves and have-nots. Earlier this week, Dr. Mike Ryan, director of WHO Emergency Program, said using V certification as a requirement for travel is not advised. And that's what they do. They come out and, because, again, like I said before, it's incredibly multifaceted, so they get the World Health Organization to come out and say, oh, it's not advised that you use this for travel. But then they have national governments do it. And then they can say national governments are the problem, World Health Organization knows what they're talking about, and we need to surrender national sovereignty. It's pretty much how it works. There's other steps in between, but that's where it goes. Proof of immunization cards already, I was doing that on purpose, already exist for yellow fever, and I've used one for years to travel to Colombia, Ecuador, or anywhere around the globe as needed. Countries such as Iceland, Poland, Portugal, and Cyprus have already announced plans for proof of V certificates. The European Union expects to present a digital green pass, which will combine information on V, recovery from illness, results from a test for people who aren't yet fully V'd, possibly as soon as this week. And Qantas Airline has started its first customer trial of Common Pass digital health app, which allows people to upload their negative C test results or proof of V for international flights. So yeah, you will need this in order to travel. Probably by the end of the year. First by plane from country to country, then by plane inside your country, then by car across state lines, eventually by car across county lines, and eventually to leave your house at all. And yes, it is going to put people into two sections, haves and have-nots. That's the point. Because the haves, in accordance and in favor with the state, will come down hard on the have-nots and make us feel terrible and guilt many people into receiving it. And the more people that get it, the worse off it'll be for all of us. Every time I talk about this stuff and show this stuff, they take it down. Moving on. Okay, here we are over at Complex. and this is March 11th, 2021. What is a VP? The future of travel explained. V's in America have begun to give people hope that they'll be able to return to normal living come this summer. We already know what Klaus Schwab told us in the book, C19, The Great Reset, that many of us are pondering when things will return to normal. The short response is never, end quote. They're using the exactly what they say here, the hope that you'll go back to normal to really get people to do what they need them to do. It's like on an individual level. Let's say somebody gets kidnapped and they tell them, we see it on TV all the time, oh, if you ever want to see your family again, or I'll do this if you do this. It's the kind of stuff that they do. They understand the human psychology better than any of us ever could, individually or collectively. So just jot that down, remember it. Add to that the fact that states like California and Texas are reopening with no restrictions, and it feels like we are tempting fate with another spike in infection rates. Despite all of that, the word that has been buzzing in inboxes and on timelines is that VPs will soon be the next wave in getting us out and about. Well, yeah, because we're going to need permission. You know, these people know better than us. Need permission. Last month, Israel made history by becoming the first country to introduce a certification system that allows VED people to access certain facilities and events. For them, this means public places such as restaurants, gyms, and hotels will be open to those who have been VED. But certification of this kind has made an impression on those wanting the full resumption of international air travel as well. Since VED distribution began in the U.S. last December, more than 95.7 million doses have been administered. According to the CDC, this means at least 2.1 million shots a day are going into the arms of those with dreams of laying upon a beach or seeing one of the world's most iconic sights. With so many questions and confusion about what a VP would mean for those in need abounds, here we'll break down what's happening and address the minefield around travel that awaits us in the months to come. And we already know what VPs are. It's proof of V. And you will have to show that, because you are going to have this to participate in their society. That's what we've been saying from the beginning. That's what the timeline has been looking like in events leading up to this. And we know about Israel becoming the first country to introduce certification system. Oh, how would they work? Individuals will be able to access their lab results and V records, much like they do with their C19 testing, and consent to have that information used to validate their C status. No other underlying personal health information is purported to be revealed. I would say that everything's going to be on that. Even your money will be connected to that system. Why do you think they haven't really taken any precautions or taken any steps to fortify our current infrastructure here in the United States and elsewhere in the world? That's because they're building new infrastructure. New. For the new world order. Kind of like when they took down the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center, and what they put in its place in symbolism, the One World Trade Center, signaling one world government. Because that's the agenda after all. And transhumanism, the morphing of machine and man, that's what transhumanism is. Along with getting you to have, well, they want to control the functions of all humanity. And the pertinent information regarding travel would be accessed through existing health data systems, national or local registries, or personal digital health records like MyChart and Advanced MD. Scaled up applications like Common Pass, according to its official website, assesses the individual's lab test results or V records from a trusted source. Who's a trusted source? CDC. Assesses the individual's lab results or V records from a trusted source. Satisfy the health screening requirements of the country they want to enter. Using Israel as an example in this case, a person who has been V'd can download the app, show their green pass at security checkpoints or whenever they're asked to show it. Why is it called a green pass? Don't you think that's kind of strange that it's called a green pass? You mean green pass like the Green New Deal or the climate change that they're saying that they're now seeing as the biggest existential threat, and what this is all about? Is this in line with Agenda 2030? You better believe it. You better believe it. Because if you don't, you're in for a rude awakening once you really figure it out. And by the time you figure it out on your own, as history shows, it will be far too late. As I've said before, I think on the last video, the Jews had no idea what was happening to them until they walked in the shower and the gas came on. And that is a fact. Now, I would take the time to dig to show you individual accounts of people that have managed to escape. But if you want a clearer picture of that, you can watch Kitty Worthman. She's an older lady. She's Austrian. She grew up under Nazi rule in Germany during that time, of course. And she tours around the United States explaining everything, and compares it to our situation today. In her age now, I'm pretty sure she's in her 90s, if she's still alive. But she goes around, she talks to people, she lets you know exactly what happened, exactly how Hitler came to power, so we don't repeat it in this country. A lot of people have listened to her. Most people have not. That's where we find ourselves right now. Most people just not wanting to listen or examine any evidence for themselves, which is why, well, one of the reasons why I started my YouTube channel. I was tired of posting on Facebook and just like 1 or 2 posts a day. I'd come across a news article like this and I would just post it and put a little thing like, hey, can you not see the agenda? This is what's going on. Most people just bypassed it because they're scrolling through their Facebook, and, well, when everything started going downhill, even more than it already was, I said, you know what? I got to go on the offensive. I got to break it down, and I have to spoon feed people now. My sister is calling me probably to let me talk to my nephew. That's actually not my nephew's mom. That's my youngest sister. My nephew's mom is her older sister and my younger sister. I wish you wouldn't have called when I'm doing my video, because now people can see your name. Genius. Oh, well. Yes, I know. Anyway. Commons Project, a non-profit organization in New York and Geneva, Switzerland. Ooh, isn't that weird? Is behind the aforementioned Common Pass, which contains a passenger's V record, according to the Washington Post, has already been tested on select flights out of New York. But whatever. Okay, what do we say about the Commons Project that they talked about at the World Economic Forum and Agenda 2030 and whatnot, the United Nations? Their commons are the common problems that we all share that are just, you know, not manufactured at all, not manipulated in any way, just common problems that we all face as human beings. And let's see, New York and Geneva, Switzerland. Huh. I wonder. Isn't there something else that goes on in Geneva, Switzerland? Well, that's right. That's right. I shouldn't have to say it. You know what I mean. But as you can see by this, you can see the agenda is being rolled out. And it will start between countries. And then, oh, look at this. What are the concerns around VPs? And of course, they have to bring up, simply put, we live in a world where racism and classism are inescapable and influence markets, industries everywhere. The WHO also noted, such as it battled against introduction of V-proofs writing. At the present time, it is WHO's position that national authorities and conveyance operators should not introduce requirements of proof of C19Vs for international travel as a condition for departure or entry, given that there are still critical unknowns regarding the efficacy of V in reducing transmission. Of course, we know the the World Health Organization, any arm of the world government, they're going to come out and they're going to say, oh, we advise against this. Then national governments do it anyway. They blame national governments for the problem not cooperating, and that's how we got to this position. And then they say that's why we need a world government. Not that hard to see, especially since they've written about this plan for a long time, which we have covered on this channel. Nobody who actually watches my videos at this point in time should be left behind. And if I'm not explaining certain things, that means that I have already explained them. And again, if you have not, please go subscribe to my main channel, because I will be going back there probably Tuesday or before. So, please. In addition, considering that there is a limited availability of Vs, preferential V of travelers could result in inadequate supplies of Vs for priority populations considered at high risk of severe C19 disease. And how do they know all this if they haven't isolated it? And the CDC is the one that said that they didn't isolate it. I actually had that document for a while and I accidentally deleted it when I was trying to free up space to record videos, but that's my bad, and I will find it again and I will bring it on. But add to that the privacy concerns due to the increase of hacking on the internet, plus ethical issues about who would get left behind in general, and a VP could create more problems. Discrimination for impoverished or minority communities could increase with the introduction of a VP, while young adults and children could become low priority for Vs and thereby be ineligible to travel. They could create a false sense of safety among those who feel that V means they are no longer at risk for getting or spreading the infection. It's still not verifiable whether V people can contract an asymptomatic case of C19 and transmit it, thereby increasing infection rates wherever they may travel. Whatever. And there are no real benefits. I'm not even going to waste my time reading this. But I wanted to show you guys something where we were going over the gun control stuff. I actually missed a page, so I want to take you there now. And this was supposed to be my example of what, I said a while ago, that they are going to start upticking events and shootings and whatnot. And this was updated about an hour ago, so around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 2 killed in Park Manor mass shooting on South Side, ID'd, multiple others wounded. 31 shot, 4 killed in Chicago weekend violence. 4 people are dead and at least 27 others hurt in school shootings across Chicago since Friday evening. And what's 27 plus 4? 31, which is 13 backwards. Yep. 15 of the victims were wounded in a single attack early Sunday during a party at a South Side business. A shooter opened fire at a party, killing 2 people and injuring many others early Sunday morning on the South Side, police said. This is just... I'm trying to see if they had any things to say about gun control, but this is what they do. They come on and they say, oh, mass shooting here, killing there. And I actually wanted to show you also, look at all these stories. It don't even matter. Lives with fear after recent shootings. This one's seen a drop in shootings in recent months. Chicago shootings. 13-year-old Knoxville student shares heartfelt poem about recent shootings. Police say recent spate of shootings and murders, whatever, tied to gang activity. And they just keep coming on and reporting on it all over the country. And you can even go to the next page. You can just keep reading all day, actually. Look at this. Yep. And eventually they come on and they're like, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we just take guns? Look at all this stuff that's happening. This is exactly what I predicted, that we would see an uptick in some major events. That's exactly what's going on now. And since those two bills passed the House and are now on to the Senate, before they go to the president's desk, be forewarned that there will be more. Just based on the narrative, whether it be false flag or organic. They will report on more. They have to. This is what they have to do. They have to disarm us before an all-powerful world government. That's their entire plan. And all this stuff is really not that hard to see. If you read a couple things, you find out pretty quickly exactly who's in charge, exactly what they want to do, by when and how. It's not rocket science. It's not astrophysics. It's not even in the category of third grade mathematics. This stuff is literally as easy as looking up the history of these certain people in power. And it'll all lead you back to the same place. You don't even have to look that far into it. And the truth is not hidden like it used to be. It used to be very hard to come across truth. It's starting to get hard again with all the censorship, but there used to be a time where there was not that much truth out there, especially over the airwaves and over the internet. But now there's a lot more people that are awake, which is great. There's a lot more people that are willing to do what it takes to preserve freedom in this country and in the world. There are people that I went to school with that did not even pay 1 ounce of attention to anything that I was posting on Facebook. Now, a couple people so far, like 3 or 4, have messaged me and asked me about my YouTube channels and how they wanted to watch because they wanted to learn what was going on. To my surprise, I was not as hostile to them as I thought I would have been. Because though these couple individuals themselves never just said, oh, you're crazy, and brushed me off, there are a lot of people who have done that and even have ridiculed me in public at times. Never got to me, because I was like, well, it don't matter what you believe because it's still going on. Laugh all you want. It's still going on. But look, let's go to page 5. You can go on forever. A lot going on in Ohio, it looks like. Wouldn't be surprised if they were actually trying to But it's just one of those things that people, you know, need to really start getting into, because they're forwarding this. They're advancing this stuff so fast because there is absolutely no resistance from anybody, at least in the United States. And if there is, it's against something that doesn't even matter. Something stupid. What are people wanting to do here right now? Let me think. Oh yeah, they want to ban and get mad over children's books or cartoons. This is what people over here get mad about. When the TV tells them they get mad about something, they get mad about it. Oh, my sister is trying to call me again to speak to my nephew. I'm almost done anyway. She could have just waited like 10 minutes. I'm sorry for the interruptions, guys. But you could see all of these where they are really, really trying to form people's minds and say guns are bad. They already plastered on the news that it's bad when you get stopped for having one, like at the airport, the video that I did 2 nights ago. At the airport near where I live. It was the 8th gun that they found this year. And they treated it all like a big, huge crime. Simply because a woman had a handgun. Get out of here. Moving on. The last thing that I wanted to get started on today was this here. And this is the 2030 agenda as a blueprint for a post-C19 world. And just talks about how it's exposing weaknesses and strengths within our societies, government structures and systems, calling for critical reflection to map our way forward. The best celebration of 5th anniversary of 2030 agenda will be to place it at the center of efforts to design sustainable solutions and build back better. Who says build back better? Why, it would be President of the United States, Mr. Joe Biden. And this guy's name is Patrick Dweck Osterhoff. Terrible with names, but I will always try to pronounce them right. It's a weird thing. As the impacts of C19 continue to unfold, differentiated effects are becoming clear. Even though we do not yet know how it will play out over the coming years, it's clear that it's much more than a health crisis. Its impacts and complexities are multidimensional and present wide-ranging socioeconomic, environmental challenges for countries and communities in all corners of the world. It's exposing weaknesses, strengths within our societies, government structures, and systems, calling for critical reflection mapped to our way forward. Enter Agenda 2030. 193 countries that adopted the 2030 Agenda on September 25, 2015, did not anticipate the acute need that the global community now has for a shared framework through which to address multiple challenges simultaneously and in all corners of the globe. Yeah, we talked about how they're implementing all of them simultaneously. As we mark the 5th anniversary of the adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the best celebration of this landmark agreement will be to place it at the center of efforts to design sustainable solutions and build back better. The 2030 Agenda provides the blueprint we need, and its 17 SDGs identify ways in which the global community can collaborate to achieve the interconnected social, economic, and environmental challenges we now face. Oh, it's all interconnected and it's worldwide problems with social, economic, and environmental challenges? No individual country can ever go at it alone. We need a world empire. One that will free us from all of this forever. And nobody will ever die. That's literally how they sound. And just like the fools of the past, the fools of today are believing them. But not all of us are sleeping. Oh no, not all of us are sleeping. We are not starting from a strong place, however. The SDGs Summit in September 2019 called progress to date insufficient. An analysis pointed to stagnation in efforts to address SDG 2, Zero Hunger, 13, Climate Action, 10, Reducing Inequalities. C19 has added further challenges for making progress on the SDGs. Poverty, hunger, and inequalities have increased around the world. Economic growth has also moved in reverse. During July 2020 session of UN High-Level Political Forum for Sustainable Development, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres told the international community that C19 could set us back years, even decades, leaving countries with massive physical and growth challenges at a time when a leap ahead is desperately needed. You mean a leap ahead like the Great Leap Forward under Mao in Communist China? Oh, maybe I'm wrong. He also stated that had implementation of 2030 agenda been further advanced, the world would have been more resilient and better prepared to respond to the challenges posed by the global health emergency. So you mean if they formed the world government earlier, it could have been more well to respond to all of this? Well, no, because none of this would have needed to happen. Because they would have been like, oh, we already have power, so no need for any of this. As speakers during the first SDG moment highlighted, our post-pandemic recovery efforts must make on the added objective of building back better. The interconnected crises have impacts on all sectors, uncovered complex interconnections within our societies. Okay, that means that they're literally uncovered complex interconnections within our societies. Like, hey, we all actually are one. SDGs acknowledge interdependencies among multiple sectors. An effective response to C19 needs to be coordinated and multidimensional, reflecting the relevance of SDGs in building sustainable and resilient societies. Voluntary National Review reporting indicates that many countries have begun mainstreaming the SDGs into their policy planning, crucial to keep the momentum moving towards systems approach to development. Governance systems that are guided by a whole-of-society approach and adopt inclusive, participatory, and partnership decision-making processes are needed to respond effectively. Only a holistic response that is based on cross-sectoral collaboration at all levels of society can build adaptive capacity to respond to the immediate and long-term effects of C19. Multi-stakeholder collaboration, including with the scientific community, civil society, and the private sector at national and local levels is essential. Local governments are the front lines of responding to the crisis, and their capacity to enable an effective response and recovery from C19 will be essential. Efforts to localize the SDGs are therefore more relevant than ever. Well, yeah, it's an international agenda to be enforced at the local level. And you can see if your local government, your county seat or whatever, or your town signed up to be a part of the sustainable development goals. Might be under a third party name whose mission is to carry out the goals. But they will have every single form of government. The effects of the health and economic crises also highlight the significance of the 2030 Agenda's principle to leave no one behind. Rising inequalities and disproportionate impact on groups such as older persons, women, youth, children, persons with disabilities, informal workers call for a people-centered, inclusive, and human rights-based approach to C19 recovery. Promoting universal access to health care services, social protection, as well as ensuring the protection of human rights and well-being of all, will be fundamental measures to build back a better, more equitable, and just world. Yeah, sounds great, don't it? 193 countries adopted the 2030. We knew that. Didn't anticipate. We knew that. We read it up there. Aligning C19 response and recovery efforts with the SDGs can help to address today's challenges while also building more inclusive economies within sustainable and resilient societies. You mean that aligning the C19 response with the SDGs wasn't the plan to begin with? Weird how they just had all this ready to go and they make it seem like they're acting at random based on what the crisis is doing. But it don't seem like that to me. This requires considerable commitment and solidarity at all levels of society in adopting the 2030 Agenda as a blueprint for recovery. Come on, guys. How much easier do they have to make it? How much easier do they have to make it telling you what's going on? Do you need to see 1,000 more NWO quotes? Do you need to see more press conferences? People on television talking about it? Or do you need to see some asshole like me tell you and try to pound it into your head? And for the people that are subscribed to my channel, this is not for you because you're already awake or you wouldn't be here at all. This is for the morons that are out there that don't seem to think that anything's wrong in America. Everything is okay here. It's the land of opportunity and freedom where nobody would ever want to leave, and we could just eat our steak and drink our beer and shop and shop and shop until we die in a hole. And everything will be okay all the time. Because this is America. Nothing bad can ever happen to any of us. That's what these people believe based on the social engineering. Every day I just look into the living room TV because, well, in our living room we have just like the regular 5-channel package. I'm not sure if a lot of you guys from other states know what I'm talking about, but in Ohio we call the regular based cable that you get, like your local news and like NBC or whatever and MeTV or something. We call it the 5-channel package. Every time I walk by the TV and the president is on or some secretary is on of his or whatever, if you just listen for like 2 minutes, you can connect things that what they're saying to the agenda for world government and what it means. Like, I'll be like, oh, this means that. Oh, why'd she say that? Oh, that's right, because that means this. They put it right out there in our face, really, for anybody to see. It's not like they're hiding it anymore, like I already said. They're just openly saying it. And this is how they reveal it to the people of the world. I like to think if it gets bad enough that people will start waking up. But I thought that 10 years ago. And I was like, oh man, if anything else happens, the pot's already boiling over. People are going to lose it and finally start doing something. But then it got worse. And worse. And worse. And the people got dumber. And dumber. And dumber. And lazier. And more self-centered. Unwilling to trust your fellow man. People my age, the people that should be ready to go on the front lines to confront this issue that we have. And I'm talking about 18 to 45 or 50-year-olds. That's when you are the most healthy in your life. People in my age group, you know what they're doing? Running around, going to different clubs on Friday night, trying to see who they can sleep with next. Consuming as much as possible, drinking, doing drugs, rotting their brains away. Coming home, TV, sleep, eat, party, drugs, sex, die. That's my whole generation summed up into one sentence. It also doesn't help that we're all the most divided generation as well. At least the old guys, they at least get along when they, you know, and this might be a stereotype, but even just gathering around talking about the weather or reading a newspaper, they still get along on a personal basis. Whereas us, you meet somebody new for the first time and they say something that pisses you off, now you're going to freak out and block them on Facebook while they're standing right in front of you and think that that does something. When are we going to get over this narcissism? Oh, I like take selfies. Like, you look dumb. And I'm sorry I'm even saying this. I'm sorry I'm ranting, but those people look dumb. Constantly taking a new selfie every day. Making up your pictures with filters and covering up this because I'm ashamed of it. Ooh, God gave me this birthmark, so I'm going to cover it up and put 1,000 pounds of makeup on and do all these weird filters. So people on Facebook and stuff, they might like me. And I might get some friends. I don't care about anybody else, though. I only care about myself. And what happens when people just mind their own business and go along, get along? You ever hear of them situations where... Actually, I could tell you a real story right now. Back in the 90s, I believe. No. 80s. 80s. Back in the 80s. Mid-80s. In New York, there was this woman. And this isn't the first time something like this has happened. But she got attacked in the Bronx in New York City. Well, outside. Whatever. Wherever that's at. I've never been there, so I can't tell. And people from these apartment complexes in all four corners of where she was, she was kind of like in the middle area, like the parking lot for the apartment complexes. And people had their lights on, looking out the window, and watching this man violate this woman in the middle of the street in front of everybody's face. And each one of those people, when the cops talked to him, asked why they didn't call 911, you know what they said? I was just minding my own business. I thought somebody else was going to do it. That's the mindset that we have today. We always think that somebody else is going to do the work for us that we have to do ourselves. That's why if you have the means and the time, it doesn't take that long, please start making videos. Start talking to your neighbors and friends. Start educating them. Start showing them the evidence instead of telling them to go look up the evidence, because they won't do that. They'll just assume that it's not real, or even if they do start to look things up, they're going to run into the gatekeepers and they're going to say, oh, well, all these different fact checkers are saying that it's false, so it must be false. And that's not how that works. There's a reason why the fact checkers are always like the first 3 pages when you're looking up topics like this. And it's because they have to try incredibly hard to discredit actual information. Which people get mad about the truth a lot of times, even in individual situations. And people say, oh, the truth's bad, or the truth is good. Well, here's the thing, folks. The truth is neither bad nor good, neither positive nor negative. It just is. The truth just is. It doesn't take on a point of positivity or negativity. Those are human concepts. The truth just is. If I throw a rock over the fence by my house, it's not, when people talk about it and their perception of it, not that people would, but I'm using it as an example. And they talk about like, oh, it was a good thing because, you know, he got that rock out of his yard. And the person on the other side will say, oh, no, it's a bad thing because now he threw it over in this person's yard and they're going to hit it with their lawnmower. Both see it as a positive and negative thing, but guess what? It doesn't matter how you see it, because it just is. And that is all I have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. So if you will bow your head in prayer with me, we can wrap this up. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not unto temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.